So you'll replace the spark plugs. So they're the two spark plugs. I've already replaced them. They just come out with a normal spark plug socket. And next thing we're going to do is remove the thermostat and have a look and make sure it's okay, and then replace it. So it's probably a 12 or a 10. So this is what the thermostat looks like when it's removed. Basically, you just want to have a look for any corrosion, and replace it if needed. So our one looks alright, and then I'll just be replacing the gasket, and we'll do it back up. I've just cleaned up the old housing. And now it's ready to bolt back on. Like that. Just here is your fuel filter. I've already changed that, but that just simply unscrews. You have to undo it, pull it out, unscrew it, replace it. That's very basic. Okay, so I'm just going to drain the gearbox oil out. So you need a big flat head screwdriver, and there's two screws, one down here and one up here. So we'll undo the bottom one. Make sure you've got a container underneath. Sometimes these can be a bit stiff, so you need a decent sized screwdriver. You'll notice it just dribbles out, and it'll be like that until you undo the top one, and then it kind of releases, lets the air out enough. So you'll see when I undo this one, it'll leak out quicker. So when you take these little screws off, the drain plugs, they should come out with the washers, and very often they get stuck to the motor. So you'll just have to get the, of course it's always the bottom one. So yeah, you just have to make sure you get the seal out. And then before we start filling it, we'll just put the new washers onto the nuts to be ready. Okay, now to fill it, I've seen all kinds of complicated contraptions, but a bottle like this seems to work for me. You got to fill it from the bottom hole, so You simply put the bottle in the bottom hole and squeeze it until it comes out the top hole. And sometimes like this you'll have to so I've just temporarily put the plug back in while I fill the bottle back up. This is a tricky bit without making too much of a mess. I'll take the bolt back out and then continue filling it. You can see the oil just starting to come out the top there. That means we're full. So we'll put the top top plug back in first. It's a little bit trickier than with the perfect tool, but you make do with what you've got at home. And then the bottom one, we just remove and put the bottom one in. Make sure the nuts are done up tight, and that's it. I'll just clean the area off with some degreaser and we'll be done. So the next thing you want to do is find the joint here. You want to remove the bottom of the two roll pins. So what I use is just like a nail, and hammer it through, and now that's poking out and I should be able to grab it with some pliers. So that's it, I've pulled the roll pin out. And the shifter should be able to come free from that, from the So there's just 4 bolts here, they're 13mm. So we'll just remove those. And when you undo these, you've got to support the weight of the bottom part of the motor. I've done is undone the 3 bolts in this. We can slide that bit off, and you can see the impeller in there. And then we'll also replace this plate. So I'll put the new ones on. So I'll put a new plate in here, and also impeller. So there's a little keyway. You just have to make sure that lines up. And once it lines up, it'll sit down like this, and then lock into place like that. Then I'll just put a dab of grease on each of these, and put them back in. Alright, now we've put the impeller and put it all back together. What we need to do is put this back in. This is probably the trickiest bit. We need to make sure that slides up, and make sure that the water pipe, which is just here, goes into this bit. Bolts on. And before I do it all up, I'll get this linkage back on. And we just put the roll pin back through and tighten up the box, and we're done. So as you can see, there's nothing too scary about this, and it's pretty simple, done in kind of an hour at home.